Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm delighted to be having this opportunity to share these ideas with you. Now, in this short presentation, I'll be sharing a key trait that will determine how effective we are in supporting a purpose led approach to transforming organizations. Now, Viktor Frankl beautifully talked about purpose. He said, those who have a why to live can bear with any how. The reality we live in has made the case for leaders to communicate a clear purpose even more urgent. However, the success of a purpose led approach strategy hinges on the prevailing mindset in the organization. Why, you may ask? Because mindset determines the quality of accountability that can be demonstrated. And being accountable and being purposeful cannot be separated. The leadership skill executives most often say they wish their leaders possessed in a survey was this: the skill of holding people accountable. But if we are holding people accountable, then our people are not holding themselves accountable. So, the actual most important leadership skill that we need is the skill of developing accountable people. So, in many of our workshops, right, we actually ask people, what what has been your experience holding people accountable? And here's a word cloud of words people share about their experience holding people accountable. And you can see that most of them do not have a good experience holding people accountable. We then ask people, when we talk about accountability, what does accountability actually mean to you? So you can see all the words that people use to describe what accountability means to them. So the question then is this: what are we noticing about the way people are thinking about accountability? Are they simply a set of behaviors, or are they deeply indicative of attitude, mindset? And I dare say, accountability is more than a behavior. It is deeply indicative of our attitude and mindset. And another thing, accountability is also indicative of how we are in relationship with people around us. So, the premise of everything I'm sharing today is this: we are always being with others. Life is in relationship. And if life is in relationship, I'm in relationship. And if I am in relationship, change and learning is also in relationship. And if life is in relationship, I'm going to suggest to you there are basically two ways to be in relationship. One way is I can be in relationship with people. I'm seeing everybody around me as a person, just like me. We call it an outward mindset. The other way to be in relationship is to be in relationship with objects. I'm seeing everybody around me as an object. We call it an inward mindset. So now let's do a little bit of a deep dive to understand the two mindsets. Now let's start with the inward mindset. Now let's say I have an inward mindset right now. If I'm inward, others don't matter like I matter. So, because you don't matter to me, your objectives, your needs, your challenges also don't matter to me. That means my objectives and behaviors are totally self focused. This would suggest that others are objects to me, objects of value. That means if you're useful to me, I see you as a vehicle I can use. If you're making my life difficult, I see you as an obstacle to blame. But if what you do has no real value for me, I see you as an irrelevancy to ignore. This is what an inward mindset looks like. And as a result of this, it manifests as people related problems. In fact, all the 1,000 different people related problems are nothing but symptoms of the inward mindset. But the beauty of life is we all seem to be mixed mindset people. So there is another mindset we operate from. We call it the outward mindset. And whenever we are operating with an outward mindset, others matter like I matter. Others are people to me. And because you're a person, your needs, your goals, your challenges matter to me. And therefore, my objectives and behaviors take others into account. I'm not doing your job for you, but I'm going to do my job in a way that is mindful of any impact I might have on you. So the summary is this: whenever I'm operating with an inward mindset, look at the world I operate in. It's all about me, I, myself. I focus on my results. But look at the world I operate in whenever I have an outward mindset. I focus on our results. And this has huge implications for our efforts to drive a purpose-led organization. Now, so to summarize, right, if you look at the two mindsets here, when I have an inward mindset, it manifests as people-related problems. All the 1,000 different manifestations of people problems are nothing but symptoms of the inward mindset. But look at what we manifest whenever we have an outward mindset. There's self-awareness, collaboration, accountability, innovation, engagement, and more. And the two mindsets actually offer us a mindset continuum. We can put the inward mindset on one extreme and the outward mindset at another extreme. And people typically straddle between the two mindsets. Some could be more inward, others could be more outward. But interestingly, the mindset continuum actually suggests 3 levels of accountability. Okay? Let's look at the first one. So the first one, I want to share with you a story to describe the first level of accountability. One day, my wife and I, we were driving and we were approaching a zebra crossing. I straight away took a quick glance to the left and the right. It seemed safe, and I just drove. At that moment, there was a person on a kick scooter, a motorized kick scooter, dashing past the zebra crossing. I came to a screeching halt and in a few seconds averted an accident. After that, I'm just fuming mad. I'm talking to my wife about how irresponsible this kick scooter driver is. How could he do that? He should check. He knows there's a car there. He cannot just come out of nowhere. And I'm just fuming mad. My wife is listening to my ranting for a while. And after that, she just says, hey, but you're the car driver, right? What should you have done when you came to a zebra crossing? And after that, I just kept quiet. So the first level of accountability is like this. I blame my action and poor performance on others and on circumstances. This is like when I'm doing sales. If I don't meet my numbers, I blame it on everybody else. I give all the excuses and take no responsibility at all for my lack of performance. Let me now share with you another story to describe what level 2 accountability looks like. Okay, now this story is about a credit control team in a company. And one of their goals is to maintain bad debts at 2.5% of revenue. It's an extremely important goal for the company because it determines a lot of other things, financial things. But the question for us now is this. In the pursuit of their bad debt goal, who and what does credit control team impact with their goal? Definitely they impact sales and sales revenue because every time sales brings in a new customer, credit control needs to approve it. They have an impact of profitability as well. However, they do not feel accountable for their impact on the sales team and profitability. They're doing a great job maintaining bad debts. So level 2 accountability looks like this. I hold myself accountable only for my own actions and performance, even though I affect others' actions and performance as well. Like the credit control team, they're doing a great job maintaining bad debts at 2.5% of revenue, and nobody will fault them for it. Now, let's look at level 3 accountability. Again, I'd like to share with you a story first. The person you see here, his name is Bill Barton. He's a founder and CEO of a debt collection company called CFS2. Now, Bill Barton, he himself was a debtor and harassed by loan sharks. And he told himself, I'm going to start a debt collection agency, but I will never treat my clients like this. So the operating premise of his company was this. Clients owe them money because they don't have enough money to pay them. This was the operating premise. So the entire team got together and they started to brainstorm. If this is a premise, how do we now collect money back? And they started to brainstorm. And then the general feeling was this. Most of them do not have money because they don't have a job. They don't have income. So they said, okay, that makes sense, right? So let's go and talk to them, motivate them, encourage them to get jobs. So that's what they did. They went and met with all their customers, encouraged them to get jobs, advised them, motivated them, and so on. Did it work? It did not. And they came back to the drawing table wondering, why did their suggestion, motivation not work? And as they were brainstorming, one of the team members said, you know why they're not listening to advice? Because they're already down and out in their life. and they have no will to live. And now if we tell them to do one more thing, they just don't have it in them to do it. Then the team decided, then we have to do it for them. So they went back to all these clients and started to interview them. Hey, what job have you done? What skill sets do you have? And they started to help these clients prepare the resume. They started to look out for jobs in the classifieds. They started to set up interviews. They brought these people for the interviews. Some of them have not been for an interview in years. They prepared them, coached them for the interview. Some of them didn't have good clothes to go for the interview. They offered that to them as well. And you know what? For the people who did not have a job, they started to collect a database of all the social service organizations in each community because they had to help these clients live with dignity. For example, somebody needed dental health, somebody needed medical support, somebody needed diapers, somebody needed food stamps. They collected all these database of social service agencies so that they could allow their clients to live with dignity while they had no money. Now, as a result of all this, what do you think happened to the results? CFS2's rate of collection was 2 times more than any other firm in the industry. Now, if you are a company and wanted to sell your debts and cash in so that you can focus on your business, who would you want to sell your debts to? A company like CFS2 or a traditional debt collection agency? So, level 3 accountability looks like this. I hold myself accountable for my own action and performance and for my impact on others' actions and performance as well. So let's look at all 3 levels of accountability together now. Here's the interesting thing, right? There are consequences to level 1 and level 2 accountability. And to understand the consequences, let's go back to the credit control story, okay? So you have credit control just trying to do their job, trying to maintain bad debts at 2.5% of revenue, right? But look at quadrant 1, the bottom right-hand quadrant. In the pursuit of managing bad debts and maintaining bad debts, what do? They're cautious about which customers to approve. And in some cases, they stop the sale to some customers. They create new processes. They can be inflexible with terms because they're very cautious. But all this affects sales. So what does sales see in credit control now? They see the credit control guys as blockers, preventing sales, risk averse, not commercially savvy, and very unhelpful. So what do to go after their own sales targets and maintain their KPIs and reach the KPIs? They escalate issues. They sometimes lie. They argue and get into conflict with credit control. Now, what does credit control see in sales now? Sales is very unprofessional. They're not cautious. They are not trustworthy. And as a result, credit control clamps up even further. They get even more cautious with sales. And this goes round and round and round. And it's very troubling because if you think about it, credit control is trying to be very responsible for their goals. So is sales. But a lot of problems are created. So we need to look at some troubling questions. Let's look at the first one. Who's creating the problem here? Both sales and credit control. But who thinks you're creating a problem? Neither of them. Who needs to change? Both of them need to change. Who thinks they need to change? Neither. Who's likely to change? No one. How long might this go on? Forever. But if you were to ask credit control, what credit control wants most in this situation, relationship with sales, what do you think they might say? Understanding, respect, collaboration, and so on. Same thing. If you were to go ask sales, hey guys in sales, what's the most thing you want in the situation, relationship with credit control? What do you think they might say? Again, the same thing. Understanding, collaboration, trust, collaboration, etc., etc. But here's a question. But is it getting them what they want? No. What is it inviting? Exactly the opposite. This is insane. So you notice that level 1 and level 2 accountability actually invite the inward mindset. They invite people-related problems, blindness, silos, blame, resistance, low morale, and many more. It takes us away from being able to strengthen a purpose-led approach, a purpose-led culture within an organization. So the question now is this: what level of accountability is most pervasive in your organization? Just take a few seconds to reflect on it and type which level you think your organization is in the chat box. And let's process it in a few minutes. Thank you. Right? Now, let's look at the other thing. Now, let's look at level 3. Now, what kind of mindset do we need to demonstrate level 3 accountability? Inward, outward. And I'd like to suggest to you that level 3 accountability is only possible if I have an outward mindset where I'm seeing others as people. So to summarize here, right, there are implications if we have level 1 or level 2 accountability as the most pervasive levels within our organization. Because think about it. What are the implications of our current level of accountability to strengthen a purpose-led approach? Specifically, consider this. What are the implications for empowering employees to become meaningful contributors to the organization? What are the implications for our efforts to improve communication and increase buy-in from employees? And lastly, what are the implications for level 1 and level 2 to strengthening engagement, productivity, and alignment across stakeholders, both vertical and lateral? Huge implications. The chances are level 1 and level 2 are not going to allow us to do any of these things, realize any of these things. So the question then is, how do we turn outward? Because a purpose-led approach needs us to be outward. And here's the thing. The key to shifting mindset is to heighten self-awareness. And when we strengthen self-awareness, we naturally invite people to feel deeply accountable for 3 things. 1, their performance. Number 2, their impact on others. And number 3, they grow in their conviction, desire to become more helpful. And all these 3 things are very critical ingredients to support a purpose-led approach. So, the sign of a successful purpose-led approach is having self-accountable people. And developing accountable people depends on 3 broad factors. Number 1, right? We need to reframe how people think about and define their jobs so as to take into account impact. Number 2, strengthen processes to support the reframing of jobs, the entire life cycle, from the time people are screened to the end, to performance appraisal and everything else. We have to strengthen processes to support the way we define jobs by taking into account impact. And lastly, most importantly, we need to implement a strategy and process to heighten self-awareness sustainably. These are 3 critical elements that will help us develop accountable people. Of course, as we are doing all these things, the underlying factor is leaders need to lead this personally, because accountability cannot be enforced. It has to be role modeled. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I would love to now hear your questions. What questions do you have?